Happy spring! This is Radical Dan. This is my first update of spring. It's like 70 degrees out here. This is really nice. What I've been doing is I'm trying to get the stump machine running. It's got gas or something, but I don't know, I drained the gas out, so I don't understand why it's doing that, but I'll have to take the carburetor off. But it runs. I gotta start doing some stump work. I posted some pictures on my Facebook. This is paper, basically recycled paper pulp, and I mixed it up just like I would with when I make my paper bricks to burn. But I've been seeing online where these scientists and doctors and stuff, or professors, whatever, trying to find a way to make what they call cellulosic ethanol, which it's an enzyme process that utilizes the cellulose in plant material that we don't normally get to utilize. So, see, when we normally make ethanol, we make it from food stock, like corn or sugar cane or sugar beets or whatever, and it always comes from a food stock. So that's a big argument with food versus fuel right now. But scientists are realizing that most of your plant fiber comprised of cellulose, which if you break it down into simpler sugars, you can ferment it and you can make ethanol out of it. So potentially you can make ethanol from wood waste, or municipal waste, or whatever. And so I was like, okay, I want to try to do something like that. And so I'm doing research and finding out all these enzymes and all this kind of stuff, and they said there's this enzyme called cellulase that you're supposed to be able to use. And I'm like, okay, where to get that, So I'm looking online, and all these Chinese companies are selling it in bulk, and I'm not buying it in bulk. I'm not buying 1,000 tons of it or whatever. So then I did some research, and I found out right here, Rid-X, it's got your enzymes in it, and it's got what is it, like there's 3 main enzymes that it uses. It uses cellulase. I can't find it. It uses cellulase to break down cellulose, and then it uses lipase to break down oils and fats, and then it uses protease to break down proteins. And I'm like, okay, well, it does that in your septic system. I said, so I wonder if it would work. So what I did is I put this in here, I mixed it up, and then I put some of that in there, and it's set for a few days. I don't know how to be able really to tell if it breaks down. I'm going to let it set for about a week, and then I'm going to take a sample of it out, and then I'm going to put it in a fermenting jar and put some yeast in it, to see if the yeast will actually work on it. If it broke the sugars down in the yeast, that can actually produce CO2 and alcohol, then I'm like, okay, that'll work. But that is just a little project. Right here, this is lye water. I've got a bunch of ashes that I had from, like, see right here, and then right here, that's like 2 years ago, that's last year, and then I've got a whole nother one out there that I've still got to separate the charcoal out of for this year. So what I did basically is I soaked it in water for a few days in a bucket, and then I drained it out, and I drained it through an old t-shirt and drained it into a pan. That's the water I got. And so what I need to do is I need to find a way to heat this to drive off all the water, to evaporate it, because you can make lye water just like it is. And I know they've got the test where you float an egg in it and stuff like that people make soap. But if you take it a step further, if you actually evaporate all the water out, then you'll get your potassium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide, whichever is more prevalent in the wood, or the wood material that you use. Because hardwood's normally potassium, and softer woods is normally sodium. But in our case, either one, it doesn't matter, because either one will work. Hydroxide is, it's really valuable as it's a valuable resource, because you can, like I said, you can make soap out of it. You can use it as a drain cleaner. What I've done in the past, I think I made a video of it last year. I built this little chemical, where is it? I think it's back here. It's a little chemical hydrogen generator. So if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you've got wood ashes and aluminum, see, that's the generator right there, and in the side over there it says generator. That's where you put your sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide in water, and then you drop pieces of aluminum in it, and what will happen is the aluminum, it eats the aluminum away and turns into hydrogen gas. Well, the hydrogen gas comes out, and then it bubbles through this one, which you fill up with water, and then the hydrogen gas will bubble through it, and then it comes out, you know, the long hose, and I've got just a little bicycle or a little basketball fill pump valve thing at the end of it, and the hydrogen gas will come out, and then if you get a flashback, you know, it'll flash back to the bubbler, you know, it won't flash back to the reactor. So I mean, it'll still be kind of scary, but you know, I mean, I've had it happen before with other things, but anyway, but yeah, you can produce hydrogen, and you can burn, you can make a little torch with it. If you produce enough hydrogen, you can actually run an engine off of it, or you can use it, you know, like propane, you know, to cook stuff with. But so yeah, well, I was thinking about heating this, and I'm like, okay, I could build a fire and heat it, because I don't want to use, you know, like gas or electricity, you know, that I buy from somebody else. So I'm like, okay, because it's about time to start making some more charcoal. And I'm like, well, I could do it that way. Then I had this really cool idea, because I left these two panels out all summer, and there's 4 little batteries that came with the bigger panels that I bought. The municipality in Boston had used them as utility transmitter power packs. So like when they would want to read somebody's water or something like that, it would automatically just send it. It would send it, you know, via radio signal, so they didn't have to come out and read it. But anyway, so what I did is I left these 4 batteries, which are it says 30. I'm thinking they're 30 amp hours a piece and 12 volts. I mean, they're not big, they're not like car batteries, but they're bigger than like the computer backups. But anyway, I was like, okay, I mean, I got a little 180 watt inverter that I built out of a battery backup. I'm like, I'll just hook up a little crock pot to it. And yeah, see, that's getting warm already. And it's on low right now. This thing I read on the back of it only runs 100 watts. I'm like, seriously? You know, a crock pot that, you know, uses 100 watts? So I plugged it into here. Let's see what I plugged it in at. 208, and it's 230. So it's been like, you know, 22 minutes that it's been running. And see, I'm still running. I'm still leveled at 12.4 volts. So I mean, I'm only putting out, you know, 90 watts for these panels. And so if it's taking 100, which it's not because it's on low, so I'm, you know, it's taking less than that, whatever. But you know, it's just barely sipping off the batteries. When the sun's full like it is right now, that's producing 90 watts, and you know, that's only using probably 70, you know, something like that. So it's probably still actually charging the batteries. When I first plugged it in, I watched that, and it was bouncing between like 13.4 and then, you know, 13, and then it'd go up and down and up and down, and it finally settled out to 12.4, which is good. So I mean, that's perfect for what I'm doing. So I'm thinking that maybe I have to heat this up, because I got little pieces of wax in here, because I tried to experiment last year when I was making my fire starters, and I was trying to do them, you know, in a crock pot, but it just took way too long to melt the wax for what I was doing. I mean, I just did it on the stove because I was making, you know, I had to make like 13 or 14 dozen of them. So, but yeah, here we got springtime. Time to put the pool up pretty soon. Green's starting to come in. Starting to look good. I think the deer got to my 2 apple trees out there. We came out the other day and there was 9 of them here in the yard. But I think my pear trees look pretty good. Yeah, they look good. Yeah, I hope they'll produce this year. Yeah, see, they're starting to, yeah, they'll pop out here pretty soon. I don't know about the peach tree. They said I only had to buy 1 because it self-pollinates, but it was looking pretty drastic last year. I'm not sure. And just the other day we went and bought a, actually found a fig plant. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to kick up or not. Now there's some little tiny growth down there. There's some fuzzy buds right here, I guess. Yeah, it might be alright. But yeah, I got a fig plant. And I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to put it yet. I'm going to put the garden back here, but I have to put a fence around it this year because the groundhogs and the deer, they just tore up everything that I put in. Of course, it was an experiment last year in the tires. But yeah, I got to put something up this year because you know, I don't mind having the animals out here, but if I'm trying to plant something, you know, I'm planting for a reason. You know, not just to feed them, which I don't mind, but hey, I want some of it, you know. So yeah, anyway, that's what we got. Starting to look really pretty out here. Got a lot of projects going for the summer. I got to go out and do a little bit more work this year so my wife can take some time off, or cut back to like part-time. She really likes her job, but you know, it's getting kind of stressful with the hours, and you know, 12-hour shifts is pretty bad when you get over 50. It's bad for anybody, I guess, unless you're 20 years old. And she finally broke. These blades were old blades I took off a ceiling fan. I didn't treat them or nothing. Just 2 little blades I took off a ceiling fan. I put them up here 3.5 years ago when we lived in Vandalia. And it broke a couple times and kept putting, kept bolting it back on, it kept breaking. So that wasn't too bad because it was free. The motor is a blower motor out of an old car, which it actually produces a little bit. It doesn't produce enough, but it's just as an experiment. And of course, this fan piece I actually cut blades off. It was a cooler fan like behind a radiator, and I just cut the opposing blades off. They say you should run odd numbers like 3 and 5, but I found that 2 was fine for what I was doing. So the next one I build, I might have a 3-blade. It's going to be a permanent magnet, you know, bigger setup that I can put up, you know, up high. You can see we got a little bit of wind right now, but here in Ohio you don't get a lot of wind constantly. So the higher up you go, the better off you are. So get this camper done this year. Got a bunch of shit I got to clean up and tear up, and I scrap everything. But yeah, so that's what we got. Kind of not really a quick update, but that's an update from Silent Hill. And this is Radical Dan, and hope y'all have a good one. I'll talk to you later.